So, welcome everybody. It's the Open Hearted Practice Group for Monday, October the 24th, 2022, or Tuesday, October 25th, 2022, depending on which side of the date line you're on. And it looks like I might be flying solo today. Thanks for the reminder, Siva, to turn on closed captioning. Jory's still recovering from some dental work that she had last week. She was just saying she was tired and might need to rest today. We'll see if she shows up. We'll find out. So a special warm welcome to those of you who are here for the first time, like Margaret. And maybe there's some others of you that are here for the first time that I haven't met yet. So I'm really glad that you're here. I live in Maui in Hawaii. And so right here where we are, it's only 3:30 in the afternoon. And I know for some of you, it's much earlier in the morning. And for some of you, it's much later in the evening. And I'm grateful for your presence no matter what time of the day it is for you. And what we do here in this period of time for the next couple hours is we practice nonviolent communication, which is a process developed by Marshall Rosenberg, the author of the book, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life, which is our inspiration. And I suggested that people prepare for this first few classes in this series by reading the first few chapters of the book. I reread them, and as usual, I got a lot out of them after reading them again. It's not necessary that you read the book. It's just really, really supportive to hear it from Marshall. And we'll actually spend some time today with Marshall via video. So I'll play a brief snippet of a video in a little while. And also just to give you a little more orientation, hi Monica, welcome. Hi Purva, Gail, Mina, glad to see you all here. And like I said, it's a practice group. So we spend a lot of time doing different kinds of practice. And we practice these three different ways of using nonviolent communication. One would be self-empathy. We'll talk a little bit about self-empathy today. The second would be practicing empathy, which is the listening part of nonviolent communication. And the third part, or the third style or mode of communication, of course, is the speaking part of nonviolent communication. And I think today we'll get a chance to practice all three of those if things go according to plan. Of course, you know what they say about plans, that plans are something that we make and then life happens. So we'll find out what actually happens today. As I mentioned, Jory may be joining us and she may not. But she's here in spirit and she sends her greetings to all of you. So I think what I'd like to do is just start with a brief self-connection exercise. And then I will play a snippet of video from Marshall. And then we'll open up small groups for you to talk about what you hear from Marshall. And then we'll come back to the large group and talk about it and use that as a takeoff point for our practice today. Anybody unwilling to have that as our plan? Okay. Not seeing any objection or hearing anything, we'll keep going. So let's practice a little bit of the self-empathy. Self-empathy simply means to focus the light of your own awareness or consciousness on your own direct experience. What I mean by that is just to notice, to bring a quality of conscious awareness to noticing what's actually happening in your life. And we'll focus on 4 different ways of looking at your own direct experience. Marshall called them the 4 components of nonviolent communication. And it starts with what you're doing already. You're observing. You're observing what's happening in your world. You're hearing my voice. Perhaps you're looking at a device or a screen. Maybe you're listening to a recording or watching a recording. Somehow your senses, your five senses, are activated right now. So you're seeing, you're hearing, you're smelling, tasting, touching. Most of us human beings, we really favor the visual. We put a lot of attention on what we see. For most of us, it's our dominant sense, not for everybody. So just enjoy. If you're a sighted person like me, enjoy that you can see and just notice not only what you see, but the act of seeing itself. And you probably notice if you tune in that your eyes are just going wherever they want to go. You might be focusing on the screen, but sometimes your eyes drift off and look at something else. Well, just relax and let that happen. Let your eyes go wherever they want to go. This is actually very soothing for your nervous system to relax and let go of trying to control your eyes. Let them just look at whatever they want to look at. This can support a sense of safety because your brain wants to make sure that you're in a safe place. And as you look around, you probably become aware that there's also thinking going on. Human beings think. That shows up as talking to yourself, evaluating, narrating, judging, all kinds of different types of thinking. You're observing that too. And if you feel comfortable, you could close your eyes and notice what happens. Now that the visual field is temporarily turned off or veiled by your eyelids, you probably have a heightened sense of what you hear, of hearing. I imagine you're listening with a sense of openness, wonder, because you don't know what sound you're going to hear next. You're just calm, alert. You might have other feelings going on. So you could repeat this exercise with all the senses, but we'll go to the body now and just notice the sensations in your body, another kind of observing where you notice physical sensations in the body. You might notice something feels tight, something feels loose. Maybe there's a sense of openness or constriction. something is sore or achy. Maybe there's even a sense of pleasure, relaxation somewhere in the body. Just kind of scan your body. Notice the sensations that are constantly being presented. Sometimes these sensations become emotions. Emotions like happy, sad, annoyed, irritated, bored, angry, hurt, frustration, something else. This is just an exercise in noticing sensations and emotions, perhaps naming them if they have a name, and allowing them to be. Each of these feelings is like a signpost or a signal that give us information about the state of our needs from moment to moment. So that's the third part or component of nonviolent communication. What are you needing right now? Needs are the motivating power of life. They motivated you to be here today. They're motivating you to stay. Your needs are motivating you to try this exercise or do something else if you're not doing the exercise. What's important to you right now? Asking that question tends to point towards needs. What's important to you right now? And then finally, the last part of nonviolent communication is requests. What would make your life wonderful would be how Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, would put it. What could you ask that might serve the needs that you identified? And then, if your eyes have been closed, you can allow them to open. And just consider what this exercise was like for you. Did you enjoy it? Did you resist it? Did you get anything out of it? Did you learn anything? Whatever your experience, just notice it, name it, and allow it. Okay. So let's watch a little Marshall, and then I'll open up the groups for people after we watch just a few minutes of a Marshall Rosenberg video.
There's only two things that human beings are ever saying: please and thank you. That's all human beings are ever saying. The only thing is, jackal-speaking people have learned to say please in a suicidal way. Think about that for a moment. What else are human beings ever saying except please? You're behaving in a way that isn't meeting my needs, or my needs are not getting met by something else. Would you please do this to meet my needs? We need to know how to say that well to survive in the world. When our needs are not getting met, we need to know how to say please in a way that makes it enjoyable for people to give it to us. All right, this morning we learned how to do that. Just learn how to say what you are feeling and needing. Make a clear request. Make sure that no words come out of your mouth that imply wrongness on the part of other people. Do everything you can to promote in people the trust that when you make a request, it is a request and not a demand. And that increases the likelihood that people will enjoy giving to you. So we studied that this morning. Now, the other half of the process is how to receive from other people what's alive in them and what they are needing to make life wonderful, and how to receive that without hearing any criticism or demand, just to hear what's alive in them. And we need to learn how to do this even when these other people are saying please in this strange way that we've been educated to say please. You know, you were all speaking perfect giraffe for about a year. See, so what I'm teaching you now is really not a second language, it's really your first language. I'm bringing you back to life, to nature, to your first language. So now the other half. How do we respond to a jackal's pleas when a jackal is expressing the pleas this way? The problem with you is that you are too, see, that's please. That person's in pain. That person has a need that isn't getting met. And isn't it sad that they only know that way to ask for it? Isn't that tragic for this person? To be saying please in a way that almost guarantees you're not going to get what you want. Or if you do, it's going to be motivated by fear, guilt, or shame, and you're going to pay for it. How sad to be educated that way. And now, of course, it would be even sadder if when the person says please that way, you don't hear the please. You hear a criticism. And that's when we have war. See, somebody in pain does their best to express it. Person on the other end hears a criticism. So let me tell you what the person that you were working on this morning, all of the messages that I heard you relate, that what you predict they might say back, here is what I heard the person saying. I heard the person you're speaking with saying this back to you. I'm in pain. I have a need that isn't getting met. Okay? That's what the person was saying in the message that you wrote down. I'm in pain because a need of mine isn't getting met. Now hear that. Put on giraffe ears and say this back to the person. How are you feeling?
I'm going to pause it there. So the essence of the video, whenever we hear someone speaking jackal or delivering a judgment to us, they're saying please. Please understand I'm in pain. I have a need that isn't being met. So I'm going to open up breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. If you don't want to go into a breakout room, just put an equal sign in front of your name, or just come back here if you go to a breakout room, and this is optional. What are you going to do in the breakout room? You're just going to meet some new people. And everybody will have about 2 or 3 minutes to introduce yourself and to talk about your reaction to what you just heard from Marshall, or maybe you still have something going on for you after the first exercise when you were practicing self-empathy. So it's just a chance for you to practice listening to each other. You don't have to do any kind of response to what other people say. You just need to be present and listen. And then when it's your turn to speak, you'll have about 2.5, 3 minutes to just express how you feel, what needs are alive in you. as we practice today and listen to Marshall. So we'll do this for, like I said, about 10 minutes. There'll be a timer that shows up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and it'll count down. And then there'll be 1 minute at the end that, so you don't have to push any buttons or do anything to come back here. You'll just automatically come back. So you can just relax, you can sit on your hands if you want to, so that you get every possible minute with folks. And then we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. One little adjustment here because I saw a new equal sign. Okay, so checking the list. And so I'll see you guys back here in 10 minutes. So, zooming back, we've had some folks join us since you guys went off into your small groups, and so glad to have everybody here again now. And love to hear if anybody would like to say anything to the large group about either the exercise, Marshall's video, or anything about your small group. If you'd like to raise your hand and speak, you can do what Rob did. Rob found at the bottom of the screen, there was a little smiley face that says reactions. And if you click on that, it opens up a little menu and you can choose raise your hand. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I think that please, to me, needs a longer statement, something like, please, would you take a mindful breath and feel and connect with the universal needs and compassion and hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, the one word doesn't quite capture it for you. You really want, you love when you put your giraffe ears on, you hear a much fuller expression than just the request, which is please. You also, you're training yourself to hear feelings and needs as well. And maybe even you love it when people who express themselves to you also do that.
Right, just like you did just now. Thank you so much. That was a good reflection there. That was enlivening. And I thought I made some contribution here, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for speaking up. Always glad to hear your voice. Gail, I see your hand in the more traditional way. Sometimes I notice those.
Well, I just wanted to say I had two brand new people in my group, and I thought it'd be nice to welcome them. But one of them, who doesn't know anything about MVC, came up with, and I liked it, is like, whenever they're speaking, we're just seeing their humanity.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you. Yes, and I do want to extend a warm welcome to Margaret and Tanya. I got a chance to hang out with Margaret a little bit before the class started, and Tanya I met about a week or two ago. There's two Tanyas, so the Tanya that's not Tanya Lusk. So, awesome. Yeah. Go ahead, Siva.
Last night with a group, I saw the film Pay It Forward, which is an old film. And then I was thinking about how people feel when they're driving a car. And I think if all of us were retrained when we're driving a car to be very polite, like sort of after you, that would change the world. Because when we're in a car, we have all this armor around us.
Yeah. And
we're doing very, very dangerous things with this powerful machine.
Yeah.
But we could treat it like we're holding a baby.
Yeah. Well, you would enjoy it here, Siva, because there's a lot of aloha. Aloha is kind of the energy of Hawaii. And aloha is literally, aloha means we breathe the same air. So it's a part of the Hawaiian culture of which I'm no expert. I've only been here 12 years and I'm a guest in their country. but I have managed to learn a little bit about aloha while living here. And aloha is an acknowledgement of interdependence. And so it's very, very common here to have someone stop and let you in to traffic. And you can almost always tell when someone is from North America or some other place and when someone's from Hawaii, because people tend to bring their driving habits from North America if they come here, and they honk their horns, which is considered extremely uh, not Pono. Pono means to be, kind of in alignment with aloha. Nobody honks their horn in Hawaii. You would just sit there and wait until the person realized that the light was green. And so, I mean, what's the hurry? We're in Hawaii. So I think you'd enjoy it here, Steve. I hope you can come and visit someday. And I agree with your assessment that that we some of us anyway, and I can't say that I'm immune to this. We change personalities when we're in the car. We lived in L.A. Jory and I lived in L.A. for about a year and a half, and I became a very defensive driver. It was a white knuckle experience driving on LA freeways. And I'm so glad to live now in an area where we don't have any freeways in Maui. Our biggest road has a speed limit of 45 miles an hour. And so I love that. Yeah. So thank you, Siva. Anybody else want to share anything before we start practicing some more? This is practice, by the way. Some of you who have been here know that every moment is a chance to practice, including this one. We're always having a chance to practice. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just wanted to ask why Hawaii has interstate highways. I don't even know why. Just thank you for hearing me. I'm done.
I think it's an aspiration, but we do have something that was built under to the specifications of interstate highways on Oahu, which where Monica lives. And I read once that Oahu has the worst traffic in the world. I don't know if that's true or not, but even worse than LA. I've been in Honolulu traffic, and I'm glad I live in Maui, like I say. It gets bad enough here during tourist season. Okay, so let's practice. Last week, we started, and we'll start the same way this week, with thinking of a message that you heard as blame or criticism or a judgment of you, some kind of a difficult message that you heard from somebody else. Maybe it even started with the pronoun you, like in Marshall's example. You are just too, and then fill in the blank, or you always, and then fill in the blank. So what's something like that you might have experienced in your life, or you could imagine experiencing, or you've seen it happen to somebody else? Just write down the one sentence that describes what you heard or imagine hearing. Anybody need more time with this step? or part of the process? And just raise your finger if you do. I see at least one person still writing, so I'll be quiet for another 30 seconds or so. So if you need to keep writing, go ahead. I'll just talk a little bit, especially to the folks who might be brand new. Marshall used some terms that may not be familiar to you if you're brand new. So I'll just say just a few words about him. He said something about jackal-speaking people. And notice he didn't say anybody was a jackal. He just said jackal-speaking people. And jackal is the symbol of, but in Marshall's book, he called it life-alienated communication. And he symbolizes that life-alienated communication with the jackal. And he uses a jackal puppet to express, to symbolize what that is all about. And if you think about about jackals, they're adorable creatures. They have big hearts. They tend to actually live in families. They're canines, like wolves and dogs and so forth. So they're in many ways they behave similarly to other canines. But if you think about what they're like in the wild, they live very low to the ground, and they subsist. They live. They survive by eating scraps of carrion leftovers from other animals' feasts, and any kind of human garbage they find and stuff like that. So they're crumb collectors in some ways, and so they somehow jackals became associated with a quality of being maybe not too connected to life. Although if we have big enough ears, we can hear their heart no matter how they speak. But that's what Marshall's talking about, is certain communication patterns that include words like should, have to, must, diagnoses like you are, and then fill in the blank with your favorite insult and so forth. So those are all jackal, examples of jackal. And then he also mentioned a giraffe and giraffe ears. And so Marshall chose the giraffe as the symbol for nonviolent communication. And this is my favorite of all the giraffes I've managed to collect over the years. This one's name is Kuan Yin. And I just love her very peaceful way of presenting to the world. She just has this quality of compassion, like Kuan Yin, the Buddha of compassion. And so giraffe has this this ability. They have these ears that they can't hear jackal. That's what we're going to be working with today. And if you think about giraffes in the wild, they have these super long necks, and that gives them a perspective, that gives them the skill of observing. They're able to observe the world in a way that no other animal has a perspective of a giraffe. And also giraffes are very peaceful for the most part animals. They're vegetarians, and they don't hunt or eat meat or anything like that. They actually eat acacia leaves and other vegetation that are up in the high treetops. And they also have a very, very strong heart. You can imagine that if you've got a neck that's that long, that you would need a strong heart to pump up the blood to the brain, to keep the brain healthy. And so giraffes have the strongest heart of any mammal that we know, the highest blood pressure of any animal. And it's kind of amazing that they're able to sustain themselves with such a high blood pressure. So that's giraffe. And so what I invited all of you to do is to write down some kind of a difficult message. And what we practiced with last week, we will, I'll do a couple of demos here and show you and catch everybody up. And then we'll decide what we can do from, once we get connected to the please, we'll figure out what we want to do with that please in terms of our own honesty or empathy. So if somebody could write down some of their jackals into the chat, that will give us something to practice with. By the way, also in the chat, I put the link to Marshall's video if anybody wants to refer to it later. So if you're willing to share your difficult message, put it into the chat or raise your hand. I'd love to do it out loud with somebody. Harmony's got one there, you never hear me. Great example. She doesn't belong in this group. Yeah. So this is a message that you heard, huh, Tanya?
Was referencing me.
Not towards you, but
I was a she.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Rena has one. What's wrong with you? You are not paying attention. Okay, so how about we, let's work with Rena's first. And I'll show you and demonstrate and say a little bit about these 4 choices that we have. So Rena, can you, you're already ahead of me, you already got your mic ready to go here. So the idea is Rena's gonna deliver this message to me as if she's the one who is upset and maybe feeling angry or whatever the feeling is. And I'm gonna put my jackal ears on. And my jackal ears, you see, are facing out towards Rena. And so these are very defensive. This is a very defensive stance that I'm taking here. I'm ready to fight fire with fire. So if you feel ready, Rena, let me have it.
What's wrong with you? You're not paying attention.
Well, I would pay attention if you'd say something interesting.
It doesn't always have to be interesting. There are firecrackers and a dog is anxious.
Yeah,
look at you on your phone.
Yeah, well, you know, if there was something really interesting happening, I'd pay attention to it. I find much more of value here, and I don't appreciate you judging me. And we could go on and on. You can see where this could go, right? This is war. We've entered into war. She fires the first missile, and it enters my defensive perimeter. I fire one back. She just fires another one back, and we can go on and on and on and on. Nobody seems to need any training in this. We've already been educated for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. We're all expert, PhD level, jackal speaking people. We're very, very good at it. So I don't need to teach you how to do that probably. Sometimes though, we turn the ears around the other way. We hear exactly the same message, but now my jackal ears are focused on me, focused on the judgments I have of myself. And I'm always looking, when I've got these ears on, I'm looking for what's wrong with me. And so if somebody blames or criticizes me, then I look for how I can agree with them. I look for a sense of alignment with their judgment. So it might sound something like this. Go ahead and give me that same line again that you started with, Rena.
What's wrong with you? You're not paying attention. I expect you to take care of Ziggy.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I got distracted and I should be paying more attention. I'm really sorry. It's terrible.
You always do this.
Yeah, I'm just, you're right. You know, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I don't even know why I'm even on the planet. I just don't know how to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, less fun, less likely to go to war, you know, because I've already kind of given up. I've completely submitted to the other person's judgment of me. I've entered into agreement with them that that there's something wrong with me. They've appointed themselves as judge and jury, and they pronounced their sentence. They've decided that I was guilty, and they're letting me know about it. And I agree. I did it. I'm wrong. I signed the confession. Put me in jail. I deserve to be punished. So these, I don't know. I never had to teach anybody much about how to do this either. This seems to be very deep in us. So let's just pause there and look at what you wrote and see if you can write first an example of jackal ears out in response to what you wrote. And then an example of jackal ears in. The first one, jackal ears out, would be the voice of anger. You get angry right back. And the second choice, jackal ears in, is the voice of guilt and shame and depression. So I'll be quiet for a couple minutes while you do that. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Rob has decided to put his into the chat. So if you're needing some support, some modeling, JO stands for jackal ears out. That's the voice of anger. JI, jackal ears in, the voice of guilt, shame, and depression. Anybody have any questions about how to do these jackal choices? Anybody need some coaching about how to become a better jackal? I see you're all agreeing with me that we're already at the PhD level of this. Yeah, so if you're brand new, you might wonder, is there something wrong with this? Does NVC say you shouldn't do this? Well, if I were to say you shouldn't do jackal, I'd be speaking jackal. I'd be making jackal wrong. So no, that's not what we're saying. We're just saying that it's not likely, if you speak jackal, you're not likely to get your needs met. You're likely to stimulate a defensive or aggressive reaction in the other person because they probably have the other person that you're connecting with probably had the same education you did. They're also PhDs in Jackal. And so if you speak Jackal to them, you're likely to stimulate a Jackal response. So one way of looking at NVC is that it is the opportunity to speak a new way, to speak a new language, and also listen in a new way. I remember once Marshall said something that was very meaningful to me in a workshop. He said, "There's no such thing as a jackal. It's only a giraffe with a language problem. There's no such thing as a jackal. It's only a giraffe with a language problem." So from that point of view, which is the one that I try to live my life from, there's no such thing as a jackal. It's just people that have been educated, just like me, to think in terms of right and wrong, good and bad, appropriate and inappropriate, who deserves what, who deserves to be punished, who deserves to be rewarded, who is what. Fill in your favorite diagnosis, and so forth. So hard.
Hi,
Hi.
good to be back here. I do have a question. It's hard to not hear with our jackal ears when we're vulnerable. So when we talk about something with a person and this thing makes us feel more vulnerable, and then we don't get the empathy we might need or the understanding or whatever, then it's harder to stay in the position of the giraffe. If you can refer to that.
Sure. Yes, and that's exactly where we're going. So your intuition is right on. And the observation is that when we are feeling particularly vulnerable or tender or something along the line of being raw, soft, open, and so forth, and we hear one of these difficult messages, given the way that we've been educated, we're likely to take it personally. That's actually what it means to take something personally, is we actually believe what the other person says is true without any evidence, and maybe with tons of contrary evidence. We take it in as if they're speaking the truth. That's what it means to take it personally. And so wouldn't it be great if there was a way that we could stop doing that? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could somehow inoculate ourselves so that we could never hear jackal again? And that's what I'm about to share with you, is giraffe ears. So because of this vulnerability that we all have, the fact that we've been educated in a way, I'm going to ask Rena to come back and give me the messages one more time in just a second, 2 more times. But because of the way we've been educated, we tend to hear these judgments of others, these moral judgments of others, and take them personally. And so we're likely to feel uncomfortable and vulnerable feelings when we hear this. And we might even think that the other person is causing these feelings in us. And I'm going to demonstrate now that you're actually at cause. You are at cause. You get to choose at some level how you're going to respond to this difficult message. And hopefully you, by the end of the class, you'll have at least some hope in your own ability to be able to transform even the most difficult jackal message. So now I take these giraffe ears and I put them on facing in. So now I'm shining the light of my consciousness on my own heart. That's what's symbolized by these giraffe ears. Those of you who have been here before know that sometimes Jory and I call this putting these ears on the 0 step. And so when I put these ears on, here's what's happening. I'm becoming totally present. There is no past. There is no future. There's just what's happening right now. That's all I'm aware of, is the present moment. And when I put these ears on, it symbolizes my intention. My intention, if I'm going to be using nonviolent communication, is to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. That's the purpose of NVC, to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. So that's what I'm symbolizing when I put these ears on, is I want to connect. In this case, I want to connect with myself so that I can respond to whatever happens to me in a compassionate way. That's in alignment with compassionate giving and receiving. So when I'm totally present, or as present as is humanly possible, and I have this intention to connect, then something kind of magical happens in my body and my heart. I keep my vulnerability, Zohar, but my vulnerability becomes my superpower. I keep my vulnerability, but my vulnerability becomes my superpower, because I become open to outcome. I become open to whatever shows up in my life. I let go of resistance. And it might sound like this. So Rena gives me the same message.
What's wrong with you? You should be paying more attention.
So you notice that I'm not saying anything. I've gone inside. I'm taking in this message and I'm checking to see how it lands in me. So I'll say what's going on inside of my consciousness when I hear this message. I'm feeling confused. I'm not sure at all of why Rena is saying this to me. So I have a need for clarity. I really wonder what's going on for Rena, why she's speaking to me with this particular tone. And it sounds, I also notice I feel a little scared. I feel scared. And I want to make sure that, my need is for clarity and to make sure that I'm protected. So I'm just slowing things down, and I'm taking the time to inquire what's going on in my body. First, I'm noticing the sensations in my body. I noticed a tightness in my stomach, kind of constriction in my chest. Just noticing it, I felt myself starting to open up again. I got a little bit curious. And I was able to then notice and name my feelings of confusion and fear. And then I was able to connect those feelings to my needs. So notice all my attention's on me, not on Rena, when I have these ears on. So giraffe ears in is also the voice or the energy of self-empathy, self-connection. All my attention is here on my own heart, on the impact that these words might have on me, on the impact of whatever else is going on in my experience. So take a moment, imagine in your own scenario, you receive the same message, but now you've taken the time to become present, get clear on your intention to connect, in this case, with yourself, and become open to see what you can learn about how this message lands in your body. And first, just pay attention to the feelings. Imagine hearing the message. Notice what happens in your body. And then note any sensations or emotions that you become aware of. You could start the writing with I feel. I feel. And then just write down the sensations and emotions. Put it into the chat. Some people say, by the way, they don't feel anything. So that's a feeling. I don't feel anything. I feel numb. That's okay. Just go with that. Margaret writes, I feel hurt and confused. I feel criticized. I feel, Zohar says, I feel shock, abandoned, confusion, overwhelmed, paralyzed. Juliana says, I feel sad because and she's already taken on to the next step. Juliana's being a little bit more enlightened. She said she's leading us to the next step, but we'll just stick with the feelings. Juliana feels sad. If you're an experienced NVC practitioner, you might notice some words that some people use sometimes, and you might have a label that those aren't feelings. I don't think that's helpful. I hear it just as pain. So if someone says something like, I feel criticized, I don't label that as a so-called faux feeling. I don't think that's helpful at all. I honor that that's the best way for Margaret in this case. I've certainly said it before. I feel criticized. I know what that's like in my body. Yes, I know that, it's because somebody else criticized me. I think somebody's criticized me and I might really feel hurt and confused. Yeah, that might be true, but I'm going to just go with whatever somebody else says. I'm not going to correct them because correction is this energy. Acceptance is this energy. Angry. Sanjita says angry. And she has a kind of a request in there. She'd like to be able to retaliate or explain herself. Victoria says, I feel hurt, lonely, lost. So these are all really important signals that we're getting from our heart and our mind. We're getting this information, and the information is pointing us towards the because. So we're going to finish the statement now. I feel whatever the sensations or emotions are. And then we're going to add the word because. And then we're going to add the phrase I need. Now this may be brand new for some of us. Maybe the first time that you have seen a needs list. You don't need a needs list. I'm going to put it on the screen in just a second. It's just a list of some human needs. You don't need to use any of the words on this. Use your own words. What do you need? What's important to you? What do you value? And here's a list of some needs. What's your because? In my case, I said I feel confused because I need clarity. and I feel scared because I need to protect myself. What's it about for you? And Rena's put the whole sentence in. That's what I would recommend other people do that want to practice. I feel sad because I need understanding and care. I feel abandoned because I need support. I feel hurt, longing for belonging. I feel angry because I need connection. And then Sanjita also is empathizing with her own request to explain what's going on for her. Needs always point to why. Why is something important to you? What's the motivation? I feel hungry because I need food. I feel thirsty because I need water. I feel tired because I need sleep. So it's just basic biology. And then some of these needs that human beings have, they become more complex, more social, more interpersonal. Margaret says, I feel hurt because I feel put down. And I need to feel I'm being seen and heard and appreciated for who I am. Yeah, so this is a great answer for someone who's here for the very first time. This shows a lot of clarity and insight about an inner experience that Margaret is expressing to us. And Tanya writes, I feel confusion because I'm longing for understanding of his experience, a shared reality perhaps. Notice this openness in Tanya. She's maybe this is what it's about. She's in the middle of an inquiry. She hasn't come to a conclusion yet. It's a very powerful expression of openness to continue to learn what's important. So if your form doesn't look like this, see if you can adjust it. I feel, and you put sensations and emotions in the first blank. Because I need, and then a need in the second blank. And a little bit of guidance about needs. I already mentioned that they're the motivators of our behavior. And the other thing about needs and the way that we use the word need in nonviolent communication is that needs are universal. Needs, I have the same needs as you. Rena has the same needs as me and as the person who delivered this message to her. This is why nonviolent communication can be such a powerful connector, because this list of needs are something that we share. This is our common ground as human beings. We all need to survive. We all need meaning. We all need to protect ourselves and to protect others. We all need autonomy, freedom. We all need interdependence, mutuality. We all need honesty, empathy, well-being. regeneration or rest. We all need presence, flow, and so forth. So when we learn to speak this language of needs, we increase the likelihood of connecting with other people. So I'll stop share here and see if anybody has any questions. Harmony.
Yeah, can you speak to the speed in which this is done in a way, because the thing that I've experienced is that when I take a pause, like I'm receiving a hard message and I take a pause, the other person who is giving this difficult message sees that pause to fire more. So they'll, it's like a machine gun of like keep having more jackal, and then if I kind of say more, then if I take more time and I'm fumbling with my feelings and needs, and then all of a sudden they fire another one, and then after I can you speak to that little space? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, sounds kind of overwhelming for you sometimes, Harmony.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah, and imagining you'd like to have the space to really take your time, and in order to connect with your experience, and what you get instead sometimes is more input before you can process the last batch of input. Yeah.
Well, yes, but I'm more thinking like I can do the giraffe ears in, and while I'm doing that, I almost simultaneously need to respond to them because they're right in front of me. So what's happening is I know that I need to give them empathy, but I'm not there yet because I have just a very limited amount of time to get my self-empathy in enough to respond with giraffe ears out. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes perfect sense. And I think I see why you feel overwhelmed. And it's very, very familiar to me. So it's not like you're different than me or different than anybody else. But if you think that you need to give the other person empathy, you're almost guaranteed to suffer. You're not responsible for giving the other person empathy. You may choose to give them empathy, and they definitely need empathy, but they don't need it from you. It's not your job unless you want it to be.
Okay, so say you're in a conversation and they've just jackaled back at you. The response to them is not really my internal giraffe. So, and letting them know my giraffe, it's what response do I have for them with that amount of time space right there?
Yeah, well, you have at least, as far as I can tell, you have 8 choices. Not to overwhelm you, but let's just go through the 8 choices: 4 internal and 4 external. So you have the choice to put your jackal ears on and just do your jackal show inside. I can't believe he or she's not giving me enough time to respond. They're overwhelming me. Whatever the blame is, you're saying it to yourself, and you're being present to your own thinking process. Or you put your jackal ears on in, and this again inside. Gosh, I wish I had more competence. I wish I was better at this NVC stuff. I'd like to be able to give them the empathy that they obviously need. They're in a lot of pain. I'm just not a very good giraffe yet. So you're blaming yourself for not being good enough. But that's all inside. Or same choices, only you actually say it out loud. Give me a break. Can't you see I'm trying to process? I'm trying to focus here on what you're telling me, and you keep on giving me more and more information. What do you expect? Now you're blaming them, but you're doing it out loud. Not too likely to lead to connection. Or you do jackal ears in, and you do it out loud. You say, I'm so overwhelmed with this. I must have I must have skipped. I must have been hiding behind the door when they were handing out compassion, because I just don't think that I'm very good at this empathy thing, and I think I'm just going to give up and find some other way to deal with this kind of stuff. Something like that. You could say that out loud. Again, not too likely to build a bridge of connection. And then you have 4 more choices that we're working on in the middle, some of which can be internal and some of which can be external. So internal giraffe, like let's say, what are you telling yourself, Harmony, in this moment? What do you notice? What are you feeling and needing when this happens to you? Start with feeling.
I'm feeling a little shocked and misunderstood
Mhm.
because I need connection and love and care.
And
Mhm.
understanding. Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. So so now you're connected to yourself. That can become the foundation of expressing your honesty out loud. You could say that. You could say your honesty. You could say, Bill, or whoever. We'll just pick on Bill. I don't think there's any Bills here. Bill, this is Bill. Jack, we'll call him Jack. Jack, when you speak to me that way, I feel hurt and confused because I'm needing a sense of space, understanding, connection. How do you feel when you hear me say that? So it gives you once you do your inner self-empathy, it gives you a foundation that you may choose to speak out loud if you sense that it will lead to more connection, and you follow your intuition on that. You'll increase your likelihood of connection if you end that expression with a clear and present request. How do you feel when you hear me say that, for example? Or what did you hear was important to me, Jack? If you say your feelings and your needs and you end on a clear and present request, then the other person's brain and heart know what you want back. You've kind of given them some support, and they're more likely to be able to meet your need for connection if you ask for what you want. Then there's going to be 2 other choices, which we will navigate now. If Rena, are you back?
Yes, I have been here. Yes, I have low battery. That's why.
Sure, great.
Yes.
So now I put my giraffe ears out.
Mm-hmm.
Giraffe ears out. So now what's symbolized by this is now all of my consciousness, all of my attention is on Rena as the deliverer of this message. When I have got these ears on, all I hear is Rena saying please or thank you. If she's going to be expressing a judgment, I know she's going to be saying please to something. So I'm fine-tuning my attention to what could Rena be wanting here? What's she saying please to? So she gives me the message again.
So what's wrong with you, Jim? You're not paying attention. I'm so upset.
Yeah.
Ziggy is anxious, the firecrackers, and you're on your phone? Wow.
Yeah. So again, my first response is internal. I'm checking out my empathy for Rena, and I'm making some guesses about what her experience might be. And sometimes my intuition might encourage me to say it out loud. So Rena, sounds like you're feeling concerned and upset. And it sounds like having some kind of shared quality of attention is important to you. And I'm thinking, without knowing everything that's going on, but I'm sensing that if I attended to something, maybe people would be protected or be safe, from all the firecrackers and all the other stuff that's going on during the festival? You really wanted to make sure everybody stays safe? And you want my support?
Yeah, I mean, it's really especially for our dog Ziggy, and you should know this.
Aha. Yeah, so you're especially concerned for Ziggy's well-being. And
Yeah.
you're really wanting to remind me that Ziggy gets scared of firecrackers. And you want some
Yeah.
support in making sure that Ziggy gets the attention and the care and the love that that they need during
Yeah.
this intensity. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you should know that. You should remember that.
yeah,
I feel upset that you don't.
yeah. It's so for you, it's upsetting that I seem to have
Mm,
that you want to be joined in like a commitment to care for Ziggy right now.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so you see, guys, what happened was my first empathic guesses landed a little bit. We got about maybe 30% connection. But she wanted to say please in another way. There was something that she was trying to get across to me that I wasn't quite taking in all the way. So she stuck with it. But I didn't give up on the connection. I kept my giraffe ears on. And I didn't hear a single judgment come out of her mouth. Even though she thought she might have been delivering judgments, all I heard was please. I heard her love for Ziggy. I love Ziggy. I love Rena. I love myself. I don't have to give up my love for any of us.
Yeah.
I get to just be present with Rena's pleas, her pain. And it awakens my own compassion. I want to find out what might help. So, maybe a request comes up for me that I'm empathizing with Rena's request. Would you love it if I just put my phone away and just stay focused on what you and Ziggy need right now?
Well, you can pet him. You just sit next to him. You can be on your phone.
So
Just
you
sit
think it's
next to him
touch.
while I finish what I'm doing.
Yeah, so you want some space to finish what you're doing, and you just want to make
Yeah.
sure that Ziggy gets reassurance.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then I get to check whether that's a gift that I can afford to give in the moment. Right? I don't have to, but I love Ziggy, I love
And give it
Rena, so I might say yes. Yeah.
and give it without resentment.
Yes.
And I have to. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, so those are my seventh and eighth choices. Right? I can keep my empathy inside. Empathy has nothing to do with the words we say. Rather, it's a translation and a transcendent process where I take the words that Rena offers me and I transform them into her feelings and needs. So now I invite you to do the same thing. So make a guess, fill in this blank, thinking about what's going on for the other person. Jory and I usually joke, this is the PhD part of NVC. We haven't, most of us have never got any training in empathy. And so this could be really, really challenging for most of us, the first few hundred times we do this. So it's okay if you don't know. You're just making a guess. You don't have to know what the other person is feeling. But since you're a human being, you've been in similar situations. You can imagine putting yourself in their clothes, what their life might be like. What if you talk like that, what would you be feeling? Just maybe scared, angry, hurt, annoyed, frustrated. Make a guess about what the other person's feelings are. There's a Wame for you to listen to while you work. We were talking about Wame earlier. Thank you. Yes, Wame empathizing with Rena. And then add the because. Oops, I didn't quite write that right. Because you need. And so, since it's a PhD program, it's good to have some support sometimes when you're learning new vocabulary. So here's a vocabulary list. What do you imagine the other person's needing when they speak to you with that please? What are they saying? Please. Please contribute to. What do they need? I see your hand, Monica. I will attend to you in a minute or two. Then the last part of this exercise is to put it into your own language. Put it in a common language with the other person. So see if you can say it in a way that doesn't sound like NVC, unless the person happens to be an NVC practitioner. I was lucky in the case that Rena is on the verge of becoming a certified trainer. And so we have a common language called NVC. But if Rena was, one of the other 7.5 billion people on the planet that I'm likely to run into, I might choose a different way of saying and acknowledging what their need is and their feeling. I might even skip the feeling and just make a guess about what might be important to them. But see if you could figure out how you could say it in a common language, a language that would be understood in your neighborhood. And I'm being literal here. If you speak a language other than English as your primary language, write it down in that language. If you speak Mandarin or Japanese or Hindi or Tamil or French or whatever, write it in your own language, how you could say it. One way that seems to work for a lot of people is that I learned from Mary McKenzie, another NVC trainer. You delete the feeling and you just put the need in using these words. Oops, you love it when. So something like, you love it when there's flow. You love it when there's care for Ziggy. Or you prefer, or you'd like it if. Lots of different ways you can say it. Don't get stuck in jargon unless you want to get rid of somebody. Then speak formal NVC to them and you'll drive them out of your life quickly. See if you can speak a common language. You're coming from your heart. You want to connect, so just speak a language that you think could be mutually understood. So that's how you might express your empathy. One last stretch is to express your honesty. And also do it in your own language. So how would you say your feelings and needs to the other person? So if you can speak from your vulnerability, but in a way that's common, that you're sensing might connect with the other person. So I hear this message from Rena, and I might genuinely feel regret. So I might say, "Oh, gosh, thank you for reminding me. I do care about Ziggy. I'm appreciating you calling me back to care for her. Thank you." And I'm going to open up the small groups again for 10 more minutes. They might be a little bit different than last time, and I'll address your question when you come back, Monica, if it's still alive, if you don't get it answered. So 10 minutes again where you talk about what you learned from this exercise. So we'll see you all in 11 minutes.
That was really.
Yeah, thank you for hanging out with each other. I'm so curious what you learned. So if you have something that you'd like to share in the chat, please do. I'll keep these rooms active after the call, so you can go back and finish the conversation, because you might not have been finished. I know that's a artifact of the Zoom experience, that you're cut off right in the middle of something really precious. Okay, Monica, what's up for you?
I just wanted to know if you could speak a little bit more about the please and thank you. Is it please hear me, or please understand me, and the thank you? I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the please and thank you.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
it. Thank you.
So anytime that anybody is expressing any of these judgments that we've been working on, they're saying, please understand that I have a need that's not met. And when my needs are not met, I feel pain. And when I'm in pain, I express myself in a way that is not very likely for me to get my needs met. So I put myself into a self-perpetuating cycle of suffering. So please understand that that's what's going on in me. Please understand that I have a need for connection. Please understand that I have a need to share power with you. Please understand that I have a need for clarity. Whatever you guess the need is, that's what they're saying please to. That every time any of us feels pain, it's because some need is not met. And we'd like to be able to rub the magic genie or the giraffe and say, hey, universe, please meet this need for me, so that I can have a sense of joy and fulfillment and relaxation and ease. And then the thank you is when the need is satisfied, to actually savor the what it's like to notice that needs are satisfied, and to express appreciation for that. So I was just talking to somebody during the breakout room about a situation where something seems to be missing in terms of affection or appreciation or acceptance in their lives. And one of the ways that I've discovered that can support that is I can make requests of what specifically I would like, of course. But the other thing is I can start giving the other person what it is that I would like. So specific example is, and I think that Jory and I have been mediating couples for about 30 something years now. And it's almost a universal experience with the couples that we've worked with that both people in the relationship want appreciation and acknowledgement of the gifts that the other, that they're trying to give to the other one. And when we don't get it, we get hungry for it and we get angry and we get hurt. How come you're not seeing that I'm trying? And so we could ask, we can make a specific request. Hey, can you, I've done this with Jory. I said, can you tell me 3 things that I've done in the last week that you appreciate? And she'll say, yeah, I can do that. Or it'll take me a while, but I can do that. Or how about, will you settle for 2? You know, something like that'll happen. And so I can make a clear and present request for something that might contribute to the need for me. Or even better, and I can give her what I want. So I can notice the 10,000 things that Jory has done that contribute to me, and I can thank her for it. And so I can start creating a field of gratitude. And so every day I authentically express gratitude for breakfast, because every day Jory spends about half an hour to 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour, preparing this most incredible breakfast that has somewhere between 15 and 20 ingredients. And it's this incredible bowl of 8 grains and greens and fruit and nuts and mushrooms and yada, yada, yada. And she puts that together every day. And every day I'm so grateful for the sustenance and the support. And so I thank her for it, genuinely, not because I have to, but because I want to. I want to give her that gift. And I don't know, I get thank yous from her every day. I don't know which causes which, but we create this feedback loop of gratitude. So we're living in that field. So if you need acceptance, give the other person acceptance. If you need integrity, give the other person integrity. If you need power to be shared, share your power with them, and so forth. So I have about 5 minutes left. I see 2 more hands, 3 hands now. So I'll stick around for a little while at the end. And I have my little commercials to do at the end, but let's listen to Juliana, then we'll pause and I'll do my little announcements.
So Jim, I just wanted to ask you, since I'm guessing the other person's, when I'm doing the giraffe ears out, and giving empathy to the other person, since I'm guessing it, so when I say I'm sensing that, and at the end of that, I mean, would it make sense to ask, is that true for you? As a question, or put the whole thing, I'm just asking you.
Sometimes, I'm always hesitant to say always this or never that, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to work with my intuition. With these natural urges. And so sometimes I sense that what would really connect would be for me to confirm whether message sent was message received. Did I really catch you? Did I get your need? And other times I've had the experience of guessing wrong, and they say, no, that's not it, but, and then they'll let me know. And so then I don't try to defend my first guess. I've had the experience, and I'll bet any experienced NVC practitioner that's here, of which there's probably hundreds of years of NVC experience in this Zoom room right now, that everybody's had the experience of reflecting back exactly what the other person just said, and the first thing out of the other person's mouth is, no, it's actually, even though you can actually play the recording for them, it doesn't matter, because it's a new moment. And so then you listen again, you reflect again. Maybe they say the exact same thing. Maybe they say something different. You make another guess if that's your intuition to make another guess. There's no right or wrong answer that I've discovered so far to that.
Mm-hmm.
So follow your intuition, you bet. Okay, so
I
now
love that.
a couple of announcements and some links here. First is Jory's scheduler, Jory loves to do one-on-one work. She does everything in the spirit of compassionate giving and receiving, also known as the gift economy. So you can make an appointment with her and spend a half an hour or an hour or whatever, and you can connect with her, and you can practice one-on-one with her. So that's available. Second thing is, if you're not getting email from us once or twice a week, it's usually once a week. Every once in a while, it's twice a week. You can go to that website there. That's our website, pathwaystoliberation.com. And you can fill in that little form, and that'll put you on our email list. We record all of these calls, and you can find them two places now. You can either find them on our website, pathwaystoliberation.com, or you can resources, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. They go to both places, so whichever you prefer. I wrote a book. Came out just about exactly a year ago. It's a great time to start buying more copies for celebrating the holidays. There's always some kind of a holiday towards the end of the year. Festival of Light is going on right now in some places in the world, and soon there'll be Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Christmas and all kinds of opportunities where we love to give gifts. I'd love it if you gave a copy of my book to people, and you can probably get it shipped to you for free. It's called Pathways to Nonviolent Communication, is the name of the book. And we're actually using it during this class. It could be a support for you, because we're talking about specific skills each week that are also mentioned in that. Also, we do these classes and all of our work with nonviolent communication in the spirit of compassionate giving and receiving. You can give money to me directly and Jory, goes to Jory as well, with that PayPal link. Been very touched. Last week was my birthday, and I got money from some of you for my birthday. That money is going to go in support of scholarships for people primarily from the Global South, what's called the Global South, to help make nonviolent communication training more affordable for places that don't have the same kind of relationship to income and so forth that we have in the West. And like, I have some friends that just were in Mexico, where they were expressing how little people are paid for super high quality work. And so since they're not paid very much compared to Americans or Canadians or Europeans, they need support to go to NVC training, and I like giving money for that. You can also give money directly to the Center for Nonviolent Communication, and you can go to cnvc.org to figure out how to give them money if you would like. If you're a U.S. citizen and taxpayer, it may be a tax-deductible donation for you, so you can check with your own tax professional about that. Next week we will continue this exploration of learning how to install giraffe ears and grow our choice, the choices we have of how we enter into these dialogues when they really matter. So, for example, if you discovered today that you hear this difficult message, and maybe it's chronic, you hear it often, and that tells you that something's real. The other person's saying, please. How can you enter into a dialogue with another person? So we'll practice more of those steps and processes to create more dialogue next week using the skills that we've been practicing today. So that's the plan for next week. And also next week is, here in the United States, it's going to be Halloween, which has somehow become a big holiday. And I'm going to invite you all to come dressed as a giraffe or a jackal or anything else that you would like. If you want to dress up in a costume, I'm intending to do it. I've been preparing ever since the beginning of even before the COVID pandemic, to prepare my costume for you, and so I'll be showing up next week wearing it. and maybe Jory will too. So if you want to wear a costume next week, it would be fun to celebrate Halloween with you. And with that, I think we're complete for today. And I see Sarah Joy has her hand up, so maybe it's so juicy we'll keep the recording on. Then I'll open up the small groups for you to go back to small groups. Sarah Joy, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Jim, for bringing in the please and thank you, and also for the appreciation. And I just wanted to say something very short on the appreciation. At one time, I was trying to do some relationship improvement with my spouse, and I watched a video and it said to give your spouse 10 appreciations that you have for them. And he just didn't want to listen. So I went over to my son, who was only like 6 or 7 years old, and I thought of 10 appreciations about my son, wrote him down on a little piece of paper and gave it to him, and this big smile appears on his face, and he tucked it into a place behind his bed and slept with it every night. And that was so meaningful to me, and I'm sorry that my husband did not, wasn't willing to listen or receive any of that at the time.
That's so beautiful, Sarah Joy. Such a wonderful story. You had this need to contribute your appreciation. You heard a no from one human being, and then you found a human being who treasured the gift that you wanted to give them. It's a great expression. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have one last thing. One of the members of my group was talking about the in conversation with someone who said something that made them feel hurt, and maybe that they didn't matter. I remember listening to Marshall talking to his son, and Marshall said, in an explanation to the group that was listening, I used to carry a little piece of paper around with feelings and needs and requests so I would remember the order, and then finally when I got better at it, I put it away. Well, I had this one conversation with my son, and we, whatever I was saying was not in giraffe language, and my son said to him, and it said to me, Dad, I think it's time to take out your paper again with all the feelings and needs on it.
Yes.
So what I loved about it was the humor and humility and self-acceptance that we can't always be an NVC, and that, we can try again if it doesn't work, and maybe let the other person know that as well.
Yes. Thank you. That's a wonderful story. I really enjoy being reminded of that story, Sarah Joy. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. Hopefully Joy will be back next week. And so send her some healing energy, some energy to support her well-being. I'll be back next week. I'm going to open up the groups again and invite you first just to unmute yourself and say aloha, bye-bye, happy trails, whatever works for you. And then I'll open up the groups and I'll move people around until you're not alone. Okay, aloha, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We share the